All right, let's dive into Charcot-Marie tooth disease, or CMT. Now, this is a condition where the whole idea of getting better isn't as simple as you'd think. It's way more personal and, honestly, a lot more complex.
So let's start not with a bunch of medical jargon, but with a really simple, really human goal. This is what one person with CMT wanted to achieve before their surgery. It's not about running a marathon, right? It's about being able to walk through the world with a little more confidence. And that really gets to the heart of it. Do the treatments we have right now, things like physiotherapy and surgery, do they actually help people hit these kinds of personal milestones? Well, the answer is kind of fascinating. It's both yes and no. On the one hand, it's a huge yes. A recent study that looked at patients after they'd had foot and ankle surgery found massive improvements. People felt they could do their daily activities better, and they were way more satisfied with how they were doing. They felt better. But here's where the puzzle comes in. That exact same study showed that when you look at the hard data, the objective stuff, like a person's walking speed, there was no real change at all. They weren't walking any faster. So what's going on here? How can patients feel this major improvement, but the stopwatch says things are exactly the same? To really get this, we've got to zoom out for a second and understand what this condition actually is. See, CMT isn't just one disease. It's a whole group of genetic disorders that mess with your peripheral nerves, so all the nerves outside of your brain and spinal cord. And that damage causes a slow, progressive weakening of muscles and a loss of feeling, usually starting in your hands and feet. The easiest way to think about it is to picture a nerve like an electrical wire. In most types of CMT, the damage happens in one of two ways. In some, it's like the plastic insulation around the wire gets frayed. The signals still get through, but it's slow. In other types, the copper wire inside actually starts to break down. The signal just gets weaker and weaker. So if the nerves themselves are breaking down and there's no cure, what do you do? Well, for decades, the whole game has been about management. How do we manage the symptoms? How do we slow down the physical changes? And how do we just improve a person's day-to-day life? Usually, the approach is a step-by-step process. You start with things like physiotherapy to keep as much strength as you can. From there, it often moves to orthotics, custom braces that give you more stability when you walk. And if those things aren't cutting it anymore, that's when surgery comes into the picture. And this right here brings us right back to that puzzle from the beginning, and it solves it perfectly. When you look at the data, surgery does make a huge measurable difference, just not in speed. Balance improved a lot. By realigning the foot, the surgery creates a much more stable platform to stand and walk on. But it can't fix the nerve damage underneath, and that's what limits your muscle power and ultimately your speed. And that difference between stability and speed is everything, because it really separates what we can do right now from the ultimate goal. I mean, managing symptoms is absolutely life-changing, but the holy grail for researchers is to find therapies that can actually stop or even reverse the disease itself. As of this moment, there are 0 drugs approved specifically for CMT. And yeah, there have been some tough setbacks recently. A big drug trial that unfortunately didn't hit its target. But even with those hurdles, the pace of genetic research is just exploding right now. And there's some seriously exciting news on the horizon. A drug called govorestat is for a form of CMT caused by the buildup of this toxic stuff called sorbitol. Well, the latest trial data showed it slashed those sorbitol levels by an average of 52%. That is a huge deal, and it has everyone feeling really optimistic that this could be the very first approved drug to actually modify the course of CMT. And this really shows you the long-term dream, especially for the most common form, CMT1A. See, that one is caused by having an extra copy of a specific gene. So the goal is pretty straightforward. Just turn down the volume on that extra gene. And there are multiple therapies getting super close to human trials, with the ultimate goal being maybe a single shot that could manage the disease. And the tools scientists are using to do this? I mean, it is straight out of science fiction. They're developing these incredibly precise little molecular machines, things with names like ASOs and cis-RNAs, even CRISPR, all designed to go in, find that one overactive gene, and just tell it to quiet down. So, with all this incredible, mind-blowing science just around the corner, it's the perfect time to bring it all back home and ask that original question again. In the world of CMT, what does success really, actually look like? And here's the bottom line. Success isn't an all-or-nothing game. It's a whole collection of victories.
For the treatments we have today, success is better balance, more confidence, a higher quality of life. For the treatments of tomorrow, success might be stopping the disease in its tracks. Neither of those might make you faster, but they are profoundly meaningful wins. And the researchers from that surgical study said it best. Understanding these different kinds of success is vital. It lets doctors and patients set goals that are ambitious, but also achievable, so you're not just chasing the wrong number and getting disappointed.
Which leaves us with this final thought. If science can give someone the confidence to walk on a stony path again without being afraid, maybe the best way to measure that success isn't with a stopwatch. Maybe it's just measured by the steps they can now take.